This episode is all about GlucoTrust. Now, I'm guessing you're here because you're thinking about how to get your blood sugar under control. Maybe you're curious about natural supplements. Or, hey, maybe you just like figuring out how the body works. Whatever brought you here, we're going all in on GlucoTrust today. We're going to break down what they're saying, look at the ingredients, and really get into the science behind it all. So get ready. We're going to find out if this supplement really is the game changer it hyped up to be, or if it's just another fad. But before we jump into GlucoTrust itself, let's talk about why healthy blood sugar even matters in the first place.
You're spot on. Healthy blood sugar, it really is the foundation of feeling good overall. Think of glucose, that's your blood sugar. Like it's fuel for your whole body. When your blood sugar is stable, your energy stays steady, your metabolism is working right, and you're way less likely to run into serious health problems. Things like diabetes, heart disease, even that stubborn weight that just won't bug. I bet those are all things you'd rather avoid, right?
For sure. And it seems like a lot of people are dealing with these problems. Probably why GlucoTrust is getting so much attention lately. And they're not shy about the marketing either, calling it a revolutionary and triple-action formula to support your blood sugar. I'm definitely interested, but I'm a little skeptical too. What are the three big claims they're making?
Okay, from what we're seeing in the source material, GlucoTrust is promising three main things. First, it's supposed to support healthy blood sugar levels, help keep your glucose in that sweet spot. Second, they say it helps you sleep more soundly, more restfully. The idea is better sleep leads to more balanced blood sugar overnight. And third, they claim it can curb those cravings that can totally wreck your diet and make it hard to stay at a healthy weight.
Whoa, they're aiming high with those promises. But is there any science behind it all?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's take a look at their ingredients and see if we can connect the dots between what they're claiming and how these ingredients are supposed to work.
Sounds good to me. The source mentions a whole bunch of natural ingredients. Some sound pretty exotic, like Gymnema sylvestre, licorice root, even juniper berries. It's like they crammed a whole botanical garden in a capsule. Can you break down some of these ingredients for us? Explain how they're supposed to work.
Absolutely. Let's start with Gymnema sylvestre. This herb has a super long history in traditional medicine, especially in India. It's been used there for centuries to help manage blood sugar and reduce sugar cravings. Actually, its name in Hindi translates to sugar destroyer. Kind of catchy, right?
Sugar destroy. Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. Is there any actual research to back that up?
There have been some studies, both in the lab and in living organisms. They suggest that Gymnema sylvestre might have a real effect on keeping blood sugar in check. For example, some research shows that it might help cut down on how much glucose your intestines absorb, and it might even boost insulin production. But important to remember, a lot of these studies were on the smaller side. We need more research to really confirm these effects and see how they play out long term.
That makes sense. So not a guaranteed sugar destroyer. But there's enough to keep scientists digging deeper. What about some of the other ingredients? Biotin, for one, I know it's good for hair and nails. But what's its connection to blood sugar?
You're right, biotin is usually associated with beauty stuff, but it also has this crucial role in energy metabolism, and that's directly tied to blood sugar. Biotin basically helps your body turn food into energy. It makes sure glucose gets used efficiently, so it may not directly lower blood sugar, but it makes sure your body's using that energy well, which is key for keeping levels stable.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces might work together for blood sugar control. Now, chromium and manganese, those really caught my eye. I usually think of them as multivitamin stuff, not blood sugar support. How do they fit into GlucoTrust?
Great question. They might not be the first things you think of when you hear blood sugar, but chromium and manganese are really important for healthy insulin function and how your body handles glucose. Chromium, for example, makes your cells more positive to insulin. Think of insulin like a key that unlocks your cells, lets the glucose in to be used for energy. Chromium helps your cells respond better to insulin, so the key works better. This can be a big help for people with insulin resistance. That's when the body's cells aren't responding to insulin as well as they should.
So chromium is like, what, WD-40 for your cells, making sure insulin can do its job. I like that. What about manganese? What's its role in this whole insulin symphony?
Manganese works more behind the scenes, but it's just as important. It's involved in making insulin itself. It makes sure your body has enough of this hormone to regulate your blood sugar. Manganese also helps with carb metabolism. It helps break down those sugars and starches into usable energy.
It sounds like chromium and manganese are crucial players in making sure your body can process and use glucose the right way. This is starting to make more sense, how each of these ingredients could play a part in GlucoTrust's claim of supporting blood sugar. But what about this whole sleep connection? The source makes a big deal about GlucoTrust working while you sleep. How does that fit in?
That's what's so interesting about all of this. It highlights the connection between sleep, your hormones, and how your blood sugar is regulated. See, when you don't get enough sleep, your body pumps out more cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and cortisol is known to raise blood sugar levels. It can even make you crave sugary stuff and gain weight.
So not sleeping enough creates this bad cycle, messes up your hormones, and makes managing your blood sugar even harder. I feel that. When I'm sleep deprived, I want all the sweets.
Exactly, and that's where GlucoTrust says it comes in. By helping you sleep more deeply, it aims to help get those cortisol levels under control, which could then lead to more stable blood sugar overnight. It's like it's trying to break that vicious cycle you were talking about.
Pretty smart strategy, targeting sleep as a way to get better blood sugar control. But how exactly does GlucoTrust help you sleep better? Is there some secret sleep ingredient in there?
Well, there isn't one magic ingredient. It's more about a combination of things that are known to have calming and sleep-promoting effects.
Okay, let's dig into those sleep-enhancing ingredients. Let's see if they live up to the hype. What are we looking at here?
All right, the source points out ingredients like chamomile. You know, chamomile, it's famous for its calming effects. And then there's magnesium, which can help you relax and sleep better.
Interesting. Chamomile, that makes sense. It's like the classic bedtime tea ingredient. But magnesium, I usually associate that with, helping your muscles recover after a workout, not really with sleep.
You're right, we often think about magnesium and muscles, but it's also super important for regulating neurotransmitters that control sleep. Magnesium helps calm down your nervous system and gives you that relaxed feeling, and that's key for falling asleep and staying asleep.
So magnesium's like a multitasker then, working behind the scenes to relax both your muscles and your mind. It's crazy how these things that seem totally separate are actually connected. This is where it gets really interesting for me. We've covered gymnoma sylvestre, biotin, chromium, manganese, chamomile, and magnesium, and how each one might help with blood sugar and sleep. But what about the rest of these ingredients, like licorice root, zinc, and those juniper berries? What do they do in GlucoTrust?
Good point. We've only just started exploring this ingredient list. Licorice root is a fascinating one. It's been used in traditional medicine for ages because it's anti-inflammatory and might be good for gut health. And we're learning more and more that gut health is a major factor in metabolic health and how your body handles blood sugar.
So licorice root is like the gut soother, keeps everything running smoothly in your digestive system. I'm starting to see how all these pieces could fit together. What about cinnamon? It's often mentioned as a natural way to regulate blood sugar. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely. There's research on cinnamon and how it could help with blood sugar. Some studies say it can make your cells more sensitive to insulin and might even lower fasting blood sugar levels. It's thought to work by kind of mimicking the effects of insulin and helping cells take up glucose better.
Incredibly. So cinnamon's not just for topping your toast anymore. It might actually be helping your body use glucose more effectively. What about zinc? I know it's important for immunity, but how does it relate to blood sugar?
Zinc is another one of those essential minerals that does a bunch of things in the body. And yes, one of those things is helping to regulate blood sugar. It's involved in producing insulin, storing it, and releasing it, making sure your body has a good supply of this vital hormone.
Wow, it's amazing how all these different ingredients are linked to blood sugar in one way or another. Now, those juniper berries, they sound like something out of a fairy tale. What's the deal with them?
Juniper berries are packed with antioxidants, and antioxidants fight oxidative stress in the body. Oxidative stress is linked to all sorts of health issues, including insulin resistance and problems with glucose metabolism. The juniper berries might not directly lower blood sugar, but they help create a healthier environment for your cells, and that can help with better blood sugar regulation.
Okay, so it's like juniper berries are the protectors, shielding your cells from damage and keeping them working at their best. It's really remarkable how interconnected all these systems are. But here's something that's been on my mind. The source we're looking at, it paints a pretty rosy picture of GlucoTrust, all these potential benefits. But it doesn't really talk about any potential downsides or risks. Is there something else we need to consider?
That's a really sharp observation, and it's super important to approach any supplement, even one made with natural ingredients, with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a potential solution. But safety should always come first.
Exactly. The source may not mention any downsides, but even natural ingredients can have side effects or interact with other medications you might be taking.
That's crucial. So what should we watch out for? Any red flags with a supplement like GlucoTrust?
Let's dig into that in part 2. We'll look at some potential concerns and talk more about why it's so important to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement. Stay tuned. It's so important to remember that everybody is different, our bodies are complex. What works for one person might not work for another. And even natural ingredients, things that seem totally harmless, well, they can still have unexpected effects or they could interact with other things.
Right. Makes sense. So even though GlucoTrust is all natural, it doesn't mean you can just start taking it without thinking, right?
Exactly. You've got to do your homework. Talk to your doctor before adding any new supplement to what you're already doing. They can help you figure out if GlucoTrust is right for you. Taking into account your health history, what medications you're on, any risks or interactions.
Yeah, I get it. It's like you wouldn't just start a new prescription without talking to your doctor, so why treat a supplement any differently? Especially when it comes to something as important as managing your blood sugar.
100%. And when it comes to potential risks, let's go back to some of the ingredients we talked about, like licorice root. Generally, it's considered safe, but it can have some downsides, especially if you've got certain health conditions.
That's interesting. I've always thought of licorice root as like a soothing thing, like in a tea. What kind of problems could it cause?
Well, licorice root can mess with certain medications, blood pressure meds, diuretics, even some heart medications. And it could make things worse if you have high blood pressure or low potassium.
Whoa, seriously. I had no clue. So just because it's natural, it doesn't mean it's problem-free. What about the other ingredients? Anything else to watch out for?
It's always smart to think about allergies or sensitivities. Some people, they might get an upset stomach or have allergic reactions to some of the things in GlucoTrust, even though most people are totally fine.
Right, just like with any food or supplement, there's always that chance you'll react to it. Better safe than sorry. This is all really helpful. It's important to know about the possible risks, not just the good stuff, so you can make a good decision.
Absolutely. And I think it's also worth mentioning that the source highlights studies backing up the benefits of individual ingredients, but there's nothing about research on GlucoTrust as a whole.
Oh, that's a good point. So we know that some of these ingredients have been studied by themselves, but we don't know for sure how they all work together in this specific mix or if the total effect is what they're claiming.
That's exactly it. And that's where being a critical thinker is so important. It's easy to get caught up in all the fancy marketing and glowing reviews, but you've got to look for real scientific evidence.
Yeah, it's like with anything you buy, you want to see the proof, right? You want to know if the claims hold up. So with GlucoTrust, we've got some pieces of the puzzle, but not the whole picture.
Perfect analogy. We've got some ingredients that looks promising, but we need more research to know if GlucoTrust as a whole formula really does what they say it does.
Okay, so let's sum up what we've learned. GlucoTrust is supposed to help with healthy blood sugar levels, better sleep, and less cravings. And it does have some ingredients that might help with those things. But we also have to be aware of the potential risks, interaction, and the fact that it hasn't been studied as a whole formula.
Exactly. And we can't forget that everybody's different. What works for you might not work for someone else. There's no magic bullet for health and wellness.
So true. It's all about figuring out what works best for your body and your needs. So knowing all that, what would you say to someone who's thinking about trying GlucoTrust?
I'd say number one, talk to your doctor first. They can help you look at the potential pros and cons based on your specific situation and make sure GlucoTrust won't cause any problems with meds you're already taking.
That's great advice. Don't just try to figure this out yourself, especially when it's your health we're talking about. It's always better to have a medical professional on your side, helping you make safe and effective choices.
Definitely. And I'd also encourage anyone who's considering GlucoTrust to do their own research. Don't just go by the marketing materials or what people are saying online. Look for real scientific studies and evidence-based information.
Be an informed consumer. And just because something is labeled natural doesn't automatically mean it's safe or effective for everyone.
You got it. It's all about being proactive and taking charge of your health journey.
Speaking of taking charge, the source material mentions that GlucoTrust is aimed at a lot of different people with blood sugar issues, cravings, weight problems, sleep problems, even just people who want to improve their overall wellness. That's a pretty broad target audience. Is it realistic to think this is something everyone should consider? Or are there situations where it might be more helpful or even potentially harmful?
That's such a good question, and it really gets at the heart of personalized healthcare. GlucoTrust might be helpful for some people, but it's definitely not a miracle cure for everyone. And there are definitely times when it might not be a good idea or could even be risky.
Okay, let's break that down a bit more. Who might benefit most from GlucoTrust and who should steer clear?
Well, people who might benefit most from GlucoTrust are those who are already working on managing their blood sugar. Through diet, exercise, maybe medication, and they're looking for extra support.
So it's not meant to replace those basic healthy habits, more like a way to boost their effects. Makes sense. Who should avoid GlucoTrust?
People who should avoid GlucoTrust are those like pre-existing health conditions, especially ones related to blood sugar, liver, or kidneys. Pregnant or breastfeeding women should stay away too. We just don't have enough research to know if it's safe for them.
Those are all really important things to remember. It's so important to know about these potential problems.
And like we talked about before, anyone on medication should talk to their doctor before even thinking about trying GlucoTrust, just to avoid any bad interactions.
Being proactive and putting your health first is so important. Now, back to something you mentioned earlier, the lack of research on GlucoTrust as a combined formula. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind when they're looking at the source material and deciding if the claims are believable?
That's a great question. It's always a good idea to look for transparency and scientific rigor, especially with supplements.
Okay, what should we be looking for specifically? What are some red flags that might mean a source isn't that trustworthy?
One red flag is when they rely too much on testimonials or anecdotes. Those personal stories can be convincing, but they're not the same as real scientific research.
That's true. It's easy to fall for those miracle cure stories. But everyone is different, and what works for one person might not work for you.
Exactly. Another red flag is when they use vague or exaggerated language. Look for specific details and claims backed by evidence, not just general statements or promises that sound too good to be true.
It's like the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And last but not least, watch out for sources that say they can cure or treat specific diseases. Supplements aren't meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
That's an important point. Supplements might help with your overall health, but they're not a replacement for real medical treatment.
Right. It's about having realistic expectations and making smart choices based on the best information you can find.
Okay, so to recap, when you're looking into GlucoTrust or any supplement, look for transparency, science-backed info, specific details. And be wary of sources that rely too much on testimonials, use vague language, or make claims that sound too good to be true.
You nailed it. And like we've been saying throughout this whole deep dive, talking to your doctor is absolutely crucial for making good decisions about your health.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about working together with your healthcare provider to figure out what's best for you. Now, before we wrap up, I want to bring up one last thing that I think is really important for our listeners to think about. We've talked about, the possible benefits of GlucoTrust and the science behind those ingredients, but zoom out for a sec. Big picture, blood sugar management in general. It seems like GlucoTrust, it's trying to be the answer for a lot of things. Cravings, weight, energy levels, and of course, keeping that blood sugar under control. Is it really possible for one supplement to do all that?
It's a really good question to think about. GlucoTrust might be helpful, yeah, but, real wellness, it's not just about one thing. It's not just popping a pill. It's about changing your lifestyle, what you eat, how you handle stress, getting enough exercise.
Right, you can't just expect a pill to fix everything. You've got to build those healthy habits. But where does GlucoTrust fit in?
Think of GlucoTrust like, I don't know, a tool in your toolbox. Not the whole solution. It could help you with your blood sugar, but it has to be part of a bigger plan, all those healthy habits.
So not replacing those lifestyle changes, just maybe making them work better? That's a lot more realistic. Now, I'm curious, how does GlucoTrust stack up against other things out there for blood sugar? Are there other natural supplements or even, prescription meds that might work better for some people?
That's where personalized healthcare is so important. There's no one thing that works for everyone when it comes to blood sugar. What's right for one person might not be right for another.
So it's not about, natural versus prescription. It's about finding what works for you, your situation.
Exactly. For some people, just changing their diet and exercising more might be enough to manage their blood sugar. Others, they might benefit from a natural supplement like GlucoTrust. And some people might need meds like metformin.
Sounds like it's really important to talk honestly with your doctor and figure out the best plan for you.
Absolutely. They can help you weigh the options, see what your risks are, and track how you're doing to make sure you're on the right path.
This deep dive into GlucoTrust has been eye-opening. We talked about the science of the ingredients, the risks, the benefits, and even how it all fits into the big picture of managing your blood sugar. What are some key things you want our listener to take away from this?
I think the biggest thing is to be smart about your health. Don't just believe everything you hear, especially about supplements. Do your own research, look for real evidence, and most importantly, talk to your doctor to make the best choices for your health.
Great advice. Take charge of your health journey. Be involved.
And remember, there's no such thing as a magic cure. It's about making changes you can stick with, building good habits, and getting professional help when you need it.
Couldn't have said it better. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into GlucoTrust. I hope you found it helpful and learned something new about managing your health. Remember, the more you know, the better decisions you can make. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep learning, stay informed, and take care of yourself.